Hey everyone, it's been a fantastic week of Vainglory. My name is Brad Chmielewski, and this is the podcast Shatter the Vain, all about the awesome game Vainglory. Super Evil Megacorp has done a fantastic job creating this super addicting game that's just so much fun to play, and anytime I have 20-30 minutes, I'm trying to jump on a game and practice some heroes and just rank up. And I made it back to hotness. After the skill tier reset, I think I got placed in pretty good gold. So I made it up to hotness, and then I dropped all the way back down to pretty good bronze. I think I was one game away from decent-ish. But that didn't happen. Back to pretty good silver, working my way up. I was playing at 3 a.m. solo queuing. It's dangerous out there if you're solo queuing, so be careful. Play at the prime times because you're going to get matched with people of your similar skill tier. Late at night, it casts a big net. You're getting people in higher ranks either against you or even on your team maybe, but you're also getting people in lower ranks that might be joining your team as well. So, jump on when everyone else is playing and maybe join a team or a guild, and that really helps you, trust the people that you're playing with. I want to mention that if you're liking the show, head over to iTunes. If you subscribe on iTunes, that's fantastic. Leave a review. If you're liking the show, 5-star review. It really helps get people interested in the show, more people find it. And, you don't have to leave a review. Just 5-star rating is super helpful. And then I still got the Patreon page going. That's at patreon.com/shatterthevain. And if you can support the show there, fantastic. I understand not everyone can, but, we got some goals going over there. Possibly we'll do a couple more shows. We'll do some other stuff with the podcast if we make it. But, thank you for everyone that's supporting the show over there. It means a lot to me. Everyone that listens, sends me tweets at Shatter The Vain, emails at shatterthevain@gmail.com. It's awesome to see the podcast grow, see the Vainglory community grow, and just super fun. So if you have any ideas for the show or people you want to see on, send them my way. I'd love to hear them. But this week, I got ChunkyPretzel joining me. He's going to talk about his stream, which is a lot of fun. I've jumped in there a few times, played some games with him. He's streaming 3 days a week, so doing private games. So definitely check his stream out and play with him. There's a link in the show notes to go follow him on Twitch. So let's do it. Let's jump into this week's episode.
Shatter the Vain, a podcast about Vainglory.
This is the 54th episode of Shatter the Vain. My name is Brad Chmielewski, and this is a podcast all about Vainglory. Every week I try to break down the news, gameplay, game tips, and hopefully we can all become better players together. And every week I'm bringing on new people to help me go through the news, the game, just talk about what they're doing. And this week I'd like to welcome ChunkyPretzel to the stream. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Brad.
Or not even the stream. It's the podcast. You're a streamer.
I am. I like to think of myself as a small time streamer. Only 3 nights a week. I'm unapologetically casual.
Okay.
And when it comes to Vainglory, I don't have aspirations of being, competitive or anything like that. But it's all about having fun and kind of giving an outlet for people to get together and play, have fun.
Sure. So which nights are you streaming then usually?
Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Oh, okay. So that's a pretty good schedule.
It's about all I can do. I feel the itch to do more sometimes, and then I feel how tired I am during the day, and I know there's no way I could possibly do more than that with work and everything else.
Right. What people don't tell you is that streaming is a lot of work, even if you're sitting there playing the game. But I don't know, you're talking and you're engaging with the chat and everything, and it takes a lot out of you when you just kind of want to sit on the couch and play.
Yeah, and I have 2 small kids, and and work and everything. So my primary playtime would be after they're in bed at night.
Okay.
So it really is, choosing to do Vainglory rather than sleep, when normal people would. Yeah, so it's just a deficit the rest of the time.
That's cool. So what brought you into Vainglory? How'd you get started playing it?
Well, I remember seeing it at the Apple iPhone event, the launch where they kind of introduced it, beforehand. And
Mhm.
I'd never played a MOBA before, so it wasn't, it. I thought, oh, that looks interesting, but it really didn't resonate with me. Like,
Okay.
oh my goodness, that looks like something I've played before. That's fantastic. It was like, well, yeah, there's a lot. There are games, but I think at least I don't remember exactly when I started playing, if it was at the end of November or if it was the first week of December, but
Okay.
right around the beginning of December, I picked it up. I had a little downtime, and was at home for like a week. I had like a minor medical procedure, so I was kind of at home for a few days. I'm like, well, I want something to do while I'm just sitting here,
Okay. Sure.
and kind of got hooked. And I have the kind of personality where things like games or even other activities where I'll just go all in on something, and then maybe it'll be the only thing I'll be thinking about for like a few weeks, maybe months, and then I'll move on
Right.
to something else. It'll be like kind of that one thing, and that probably would have been what happened with Vainglory, except I found Twitch, and
Yeah.
I'm at work. I kind of have something going on off on the side, and I think it was Shin Kaigen's stream that like I really saw it and just started watching that every day when he'd do it, and
Okay.
kind of even like because I didn't know what I was doing, kind of became, I wouldn't say good because I didn't know what I was doing, but okay at kind of the heroes that he was playing at that time. So my mains were, I guess, what his were at the time.
Okay. Some
And then I found
glaive and
like weapon
yeah.
adagio
Okay.
in lane, yeah, um, and then I found a guild, and joined them. And of course, I was the oldest guy in the guild,
Okay.
so I was kind of like the dad. And that guild disbanded, but a lot of us stayed friends. And I think it was kind of that connection that kept me, going. Just the kind of the community, and these people that I wouldn't have known any other way. But
Yeah.
yeah, we just kind of stuck together. And some of those people are still, I talk to them every day, in Skype or Discord or whatever.
And then what, like, were you thinking about streaming beforehand? Like, did you play other games that you kind of were
No,
on Twitch, or you watched it all, or was it just
I
Vainglory
I never
first?
I never streamed before, and I first started thinking about it really just because I'd struggled, especially with the guild kind of disbanding, struggled to find people to play with.
Okay.
Being able to get like that third person, and you're like, oh, we're gonna duo, but whatever the random person is going to do something ridiculous,
Sure.
and you just being able to consistently get enough people. So I'm like, well, if I stream, maybe I could be able to at least get together a party and play decent games,
Okay.
and just really just that have some way to have fun. And I'm really kind of a shy guy, and don't really like to be. I mean, the idea of being on camera wasn't something that I really wanted to do. So at
Okay.
first I didn't, but I knew that just watching other streams, the streams that had a face cam, I felt more engaging than ones that didn't.
Yeah.
And I
Sure.
kind of knew that, I mean, it isn't universally true. There are some streams that, are because of the person's personality, and, there are some certain exceptions to that. But I just found watching Vainglory that, even though it really didn't do anything, like seeing Shin on there seemed to like give you some more intimate, connection to him than if it was just a voice talking to you. So I
Right.
thought, well, I better do this thing. And I like to think I got a little bit more comfortable with it over time, but it's still kind of awkward to me to think
Th-
all these people are looking at me. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of a, I guess, strange thing sometimes, but then you have to realize, like, you're just playing the game, and they like the game, and hopefully they would come to like you too. Like, they're there for the game first, and then maybe they like you second.
Yeah. Or if they don't, and they trash talk you in the chat, then
Yeah.
you start thinking about that anyway, and you forget about the fact that they're all looking at you.
Sure. So if you were playing like what Shin was playing, who do you like to play now? Are you still on those adagios and glaives, or you kind of run the gamut now?
No, I became mostly a support main.
Okay.
I mean, I used to play. I mean, I would play weapon adagio, lane, and whatever. But the support glaive was kind of the thing I did for a long time, and I was known for that in the guild I was in. I mean, it was never Shin caliber, but I because I just did it so much, I was comfortable with making those kind of plays. And that kind of fell off for me, and I played just like a lot of Catherine, and Arden when Arden was like for a while like clearly like the best
Yeah,
support.
when they're in the
And
stun bug days.
yeah, and like before stuns became like a must-have in like the laser jewel days, where you're like, okay, well, Arden's not good because we need to have a reliable stun like all the time just to like stop this.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, Arden's trash. And then when Fortress came out, I played Fortress a lot. I haven't played him much lately, and actually came back to Arden. I got bored of Arden for a long time, just because I played him like every game. You were thinking, well, I want to play something else, but yet for every team comp, Arden was the right choice.
Right. Okay.
At that time, it was like, well, okay, I guess we'll do Arden, and it just became kind of like it wasn't fun to play. But now I enjoy it a lot, and I played Adagio a lot recently. Just the support Adagio and kind of the bait visual, run in and slow everyone, and perhaps pull off the multiple step stun with his ultimate.
At least slow enough that your team can clean up and do their thing.
and then, or it's likely that they're trying to kill you, and your team can maybe get a head start on doing the damage.
Right. Yeah.
And then recently Finn. I like Finn a lot. I haven't played him much in ranked.
Okay.
I haven't really played a whole lot of ranked since 1.9, but Finn, I think Finn is a lot like Adagio to me, in that it depends a lot on whether your team knows how to play around that support. So if your team, if you're Adagio and you rush in and slow everyone, and then your team kind of like
just backs
runs
off,
it takes 5 seconds to get there, then you just look like the ridiculous guy that just ran in there and
Leroy Jenkins it. And
yeah, so it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It's hard to do in say game solo queue or something like that. It feels like it's much stronger in parties, and I feel like that about Finn, at least early on when no one knew how to play with Finn. I think over time people will become more comfortable and know I should stand close to him. He's going to buff my damage or my health and my defensive stats if I stand next to him.
Yeah.
And know how he makes plays. But at least the first, several casual games I tried playing with Finn, it wasn't really that great. Like usually we're just, left to die.
But when you land those hooks, it's so satisfying.
Yeah. If you can make plays, I've seen some fantastic ones. Wadiax was trying to get me during one stream to do one. I didn't quite understand it till he showed me a video that he did, but he had stood behind the gold miner and put a bunch of mines back there, and they had the gold miner in their control and candied, and then like must have flared a lane bush and then pulled someone from the lane into behind the gold miner.
Okay.
Of course, they detonate the scout traps, which aggroes the gold miner who's candied, and it's like it's the gib.
That's a good combo, yeah.
So, I mean, if you can have plays planned like that. But my favorite I think on one of the dev streams, I was invited just kind of a coincidence to play, and it was like the week after Finn was out. So I thought, well, they probably want me to play. And I think we lost. I played with Zekent and Evil Finn, and I think they thought I was terrible because, again, it was one of those things where I play a little bit aggressive when I play support and playing with people I don't know. I'll do things like I'll engage, and then they'll have no part of it.
No, you just have to blame Zekent. He didn't do his job and carry you guys.
But we had a part where the glaive of the enemy team, they were taking Kraken, and I thought this is probably not a good idea with the glaive of the enemy team not dead. Glaive's like a Kraken stealing machine.
Yeah.
And I could see him kind of peeking out of the bush. I knew they didn't have vision from the other side. So I walked past him as he came out, and right when he was trying to time the last hit, hooked him back and pulled him back away from the Kraken so that my team could finish it.
Oh, nice.
We've also had times where you're dancing around that turret in the opening to the base, where you're kind of trying to siege that turret in that bottleneck, and they're all three enemies are there, and you're like, we're not going to get any progress. But if you go just slightly down in the jungle and like hook one or two of them down into the jungle,
through the wall,
now they're separated with your team, kind of in between. And like if you pull like a Ringo down there, now he's got to decide, is he going to try to run through you guys, or most likely he's going to just take off into the jungle and run away. And now you've at least got an easier task to siege that turret.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't been playing a lot of Finn. I'll have to get more into that for sure. Before jumping in the news, I wanted to ask, where does the name come from? I feel like it's just I'm sure you get asked all the time on your stream where it comes
I
from.
do. I need to add some text and the information about that, but it's not a big deal. It was, because like I've said, I kind of get obsessed about, whatever thing that I'm thinking about with
Okay.
game or activity. Some people think everything sounds like a band name or an album title or something like that. To me, anything that sounded interesting sounded like an IGN,
Okay.
right? It sounded like a name for Vainglory. And I was just, at night getting a snack for my kids, and we had like chunky peanut butter and pretzel sticks. And for some reason, one of them said something about, a chunky pretzel. That was what they were going to call the snack.
Oh,
All right, I got to go get that.
that's your name.
So
now.
I think it was like my third main account by the time I created that.
Okay. Yeah. And so now it's your main account now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those other ones that I had, I don't even look at. But
Okay.
I mean, I have probably registered at least 20 accounts in NA at one time or another, usually just because there's a name that I thought it would be cool to go squat on it.
Yeah, sure.
But I do have, I think the EA region I have accounts in, and
Okay.
they're like, I have Chunky Croissant in EU. I have Chunky Churro in South America, which of course is not necessarily South American, but it's a theme as we go on. Because when we get to Southeast Asia, this was one we had people suggest names for. I have Chunky Chow Mein, I think, is one of
Oh man.
yeah. Or trying to stick with the theme. And I have a good one for East Asia that I probably don't want to say because I haven't actually created the account yet.
Yeah, you should wait on that for sure. Yeah, I don't have a South American account yet. Maybe I should get on that. But I don't even play on my EU account very often.
Yeah,
so
I don't. It actually saved me. I had the South American account was the only one I had at first because a friend of mine, a good friend, is in Honduras.
Okay.
And he plays on North American server because at the time he said, the South American server wasn't really as competitive. And he, being in Central America, it wasn't like he was located much closer. I mean, he kind of had a little bit of lag either way. So he created a South American account for me. And having that, there was some North American downtime once on a stream, and being able to jump on the South American server and play with a few people that had them, be able to actually, save the stream. Otherwise I would have had to say, well, see you later. Or I would have had to scramble and find some other game to play, but we could actually play Vainglory just, in a completely
somewhere else.
region.
Yeah. How's the ping playing in South America versus EU? For you, at least.
Yeah, if I remember, I don't think it's that. I think it's about the same for me. But it was the time that I played much on South America was so much longer ago. Changes to the game might have changed how that feels to me too. Okay. So it's kind of hard, if I were to play on them both in the same day, I'd probably have a better feel for that.
Yeah, because I remember playing on SEA when the game first launched there early on, and then going to NA, and it's like, oh, this is a different game now that you don't have constant 300 to 600 ping. It's
right.
just like, okay, I get what it's supposed to be.
I keep joking to people. I hope that they move the NA servers to Chicago,
like Riot,
and follow Riot's lead at some point, so that it'll be located relatively close to me.
All right, I'd accept that too, because I'm right here. Well, awesome. Well, we got a little bit of news. It's a pretty light week, but let's jump into that.
Vainglory News.
So the first bit of news is going to be this Vox hotfix that happened. So 1.9 launched, and Vox was still super strong. Vox has been one of the strongest heroes since he became into the game, since he was released. And so that kind of shifted. He kind of left the lane starting in 1.9 and kind of went to the jungle, which I think is where Super Evil wanted him, because if you went with the family, you'd run Celeste in lane, Vox in jungle with Arden. That's kind of the three heroes together. Yeah. So he became really strong in the jungle as a weapon carry. Like, he could just run through that jungle really fast, clear it out, get his a couple items, and then just start tearing people apart. And once again, he was in every game. Were you seeing him in the jungle and all over the place?
Yeah, I was seeing him all over the place. And in fact, this was, shortly after the release. I was just solo queuing at night, which I don't get to do often, but I was just really excited about the new patch and trying things out. And there was, we won a game with a pair that were, I think Celeste and Vox at the time. And I think I was Catherine, and we just trashed the other team. And afterwards they friended me and were like, "Oh, really, really good. You play a good Adagio." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I can do that." Like, great, play Adagio.
Okay.
Because the Adagio buff on the already OP weapon Vox was pretty insane. And yeah, that combination was just crazy. So yeah, I mean, with a little bit of weapon speed, I mean, the Adagio's buff is, it isn't, like a banner thing or something where it's, per second. It's just, here's a flat amount we're going to add to each auto attack for X number of seconds. Yeah. And yeah, that was pretty crazy. I'm not surprised that they changed it. I'm surprised at how fast they were able to react to it. Like, that's kind of the first time they've.
Yeah, I almost feel like in 1.9 or even 1.8, they maybe made some of the adjustments to bring these kind of abilities for them to adjust server side rather than in the game. Because there's things like we had the Stormguard banner fix where items are things that are downloaded to your game and those are stored. So those can't necessarily be changed. But it seems like ability numbers, turret damage, that's all getting pulled now from the servers. So they can make these kind of hot fixes without going through Apple and Android and all that.
Well, and the game, to avoid people being able to, hack clients to make stuff happen. I mean, it's server authoritative. So the server does, makes all those decisions, even if your client, thinks momentarily that, I did, 1 trillion damage. The server is going to, not going to actually propagate that to everyone else. It's going to be out of sync. So, I don't know, what the limitations are of that. I'm sure, they're limited by, they can't change game mechanics that like the client needs to know about.
Right.
But like some of those numbers and stuff like that, they could just change it. And the worst case is, you might have some description somewhere that's wrong or something like that. Yeah.
We see that kind of all the time. Sometimes things get swapped, and so that's not always a big deal.
Yeah. But I like that they reacted fast. And I think, they seem to have learned a lot from, the few OP heroes that went for kind of way too long, right? With like Tank Scarf and Laser Jewel, where everyone was just like, okay, I'm not going to play this game until this gets fixed, because this, or I'm just going to play privates because this isn't any fun.
But all they did was basically bring down his weapon damage numbers a little bit, and then his sonic zoom weapon ratio was brought down as well, which I have not seen a Vox since this happened. Like, it just maybe like one, but really he's not in games that often. Right. Have you been still seeing him a lot, or is it kind of died down a little bit?
I've still seen him a bunch, but I don't see him in every game, which I guess is telling.
Okay.
And honestly, I probably haven't played that many total games since then to have a really good sampling, but and then when I have, we've been trying out funny things, in casual games and stuff. So it's hard to tell, when there is a Vox, whether he's still really strong or whether, our success or failure is because we're doing something silly, right? Like trying carry fins and carry fortresses and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Speaking of that, how's 1.9 been so far? You're kind of touching on Finn a little bit. You've been playing him a lot, and you're enjoying this patch.
Yeah, I'm liking it a lot so far. I'm not one that being pretty casual. I'm not one who maybe would notice really small changes too much.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm enjoying seeing Petal sometimes.
You're seeing Petal? Really?
Yeah, occasionally. I haven't seen many good ones. There's one player who has done very well on my stream playing Petal.
Okay.
And claims that Petal is great. and loves the second ability, which a lot of people would just say, "Oh, I hate the trampoline thing," and he's like, "Oh no, it's great."
The only pedal I ran into was Bouncy Bouncy, and he was playing pedal beforehand, and when he locked in pedal, I was like, all right, I know you're a good pedal, so I'm gonna go with this.
Yeah, and I'm not claiming I've seen pedal in ranked,
Okay.
but in casual and in private games on stream, I'm seeing pedal and varying amounts of success. Where before it always seemed like someone's trolling if they're going pedal.
Yeah. What about the guild system and the teams? Do you have a guild? You're
Yes.
going?
Yeah, I do have a guild. We had a guild outside of the game already, so it's a little bit different because now you have these two sides where there's like I don't know if you want to call it real guild, but you have this like existing guild that's a group that was already organized outside the game, and then there's the in-game structure, which may or may not allow all the people in a guild in. Now, in our case, it did, except that initially the person who created our guild for us created it open.
Oh, okay.
And then a bunch of people joined it. And like, okay, so they're kicking him out, and then they're asking, well, why was I kicked? Well, okay, well, this is a guild outside the game, and we actually had to like scrap the guild and create a new one.
Oh, geez,
because
you can't change anything right now. Yeah,
you can't change the settings. Yeah, they said in 1.10. I mean, that's what Supporter Souls, that they will add the ability to change it. So you could wait it out, but we just thought the game of kicking one person whenever we need a new spot to like get a legit guild member in was going to be too hard to do. And it was only a few days in, and we thought, well, we'll just lose the fame and like start over, and it'll be okay. But I like it a lot. I know we lost the ability to invite to the guild briefly after the server downtime, which had me a little confused. I was like, am I not the captain anymore? What's going on?
I didn't even notice. I think the Wicked Guild is like, I had everyone already in there, so we didn't have to invite anyone else at the time, so I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I like it a lot so far. I wish that, I think they made the right decision in that the tags for teams override the tags for guilds when they have to show a tag, like in-game or under a person. But I kind of wish that, like, when you see your friends list, they'd show both in some way, only because... Okay. Like I made a team, just a team specifically, I'm friending like recruits, that I can play with them and have an easy way to find them in game. Yeah. And so my team's going to show up, not the name of my guild. And, and people, see my name, or if as a streamer, they say, oh, there's that. And you kind of wish that your guild tag would show up, So I don't know if that's something that will change, but
right, it's a very limited space. They got to show the skill tier and guild and team and your name and whatever else needs to be there.
But overall, I like it a lot. It seems to be encouraging people to play in teams and parties more. Right. People just before I had friends who would just solo all the time, and they probably still do. They're more and more like, oh, let's get fame for the guild. Yeah, let's do it. Or, let's get people in the team. Let's try to, rank up our team. And I don't know the exact numbers on that, obviously. And I don't think, Super Evil Megacorp has told us, but
no.
I wouldn't be surprised if like the ratio of like solo queue versus, solo queue or duo versus like full 3-man teams has changed after that, just because of the motivation that you have, that there's something to be gained by doing that.
Yeah. Do you think
before it was just like,
do you think they kind of killed the solo queue though? Like you kind of almost have to have a team now?
I don't know. Maybe. And that's the thing is, all these things depend a lot on how big the player base is. And we really, like I felt a lot of pain like when they first did the split with, ranked and casual. I mean, I felt like it was not quite enough people to support that. And it was kind of crazy. Like, ranked was, really hard. Yeah. For some of us, and casual,
just chaos.
Matchmaker's relaxed, and it just I had an account that I wanted to get to level 10, like my one other account that's kind of like that I am like, okay, if I want to play and not have people like recognize me or anything like that, I wanted to have an account that I could just go try stuff out, and in that account it took forever to get to 10, and it wasn't I know it takes the same for everyone, but it was just painful because I wasn't enjoying the games. And this was really early on, but it was like, you just come to expect people will do something sane and when everyone's just doing crazy stuff. And I don't know if I just got used to it or if it kind of settled out or if there are more people where you're not being matched with such a wide range of skills. I know it's looser in casual, but maybe the looseness is like, within a tier so of like where you're at versus just like, well, we couldn't find anyone and we want to match you in a minute and a half. So we're going to grab somebody at like tier 1 and throw them in here and,
And, hopefully you can teach them how to play.
Yep. And do the Iron Guard contract dance and all that that stuff.
Well, nice. Yeah. 1.9's been pretty fun. Yeah. Ranked has been a lot harder since the compression tier reduction. So I've noticed that like it is a lot difficult to rank up and basically get out of the ranks. So it's becoming harder, but I think that's what they kind of wanted too. They didn't want everyone to be able to climb. So.
Right. Yeah, it'll take time. Some people are claiming it's easier. I think it depends on where you are. But some people are claiming, it's easy, and that wasn't my experience. I think I've gone up and down, and I'm back like in the same place I started again.
Okay.
And granted, I don't play a lot of ranked, but I think things will probably settle out as people, the high skill players move up and everything, and then I'll probably get a team together and see if we can climb back into a respectable position.
Right. Yeah. Like I feel bad seeing where I'm at. It's like, don't look at this right now.
I actually, there was a guy who came to my stream and had deleted the game before that because he came into the game and he was like had been vainglorious and now he was hot as something and he just like deleted the game and said I'm done.
Oh.
But then of course and then he wanted to play, so then he's like, okay, I'm downloading the game again now.
Yeah, pulls you back in and you gotta keep climbing now.
But yeah, a lot of people who maybe they knew about it and they just didn't think about it, or maybe they hadn't been listening and just playing, might have been surprised by the drop. I mean, I know they give you the message when you go in, but it might have been kind of jarring that I was simply amazing before. What are you talking about? Why am I pretty good now? I did all that work, right?
Yeah. Funny.
So.
Yeah, but we'll see in 1.9, or 1.10, like you said, there's going to be changes to the guilds, and we'll probably get the new hero that's part of the Finn lore. Which seems pretty interesting. We're already like halfway through the month now. It's going to be here before we know it. So any issues anyone's having is just going to be gone, and we'll be at 1.10.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see, with the guilds, because we have these levels for guilds, and there's really nothing right now that we're given or you're not, there's no rewards for leveling up, and
right.
I think something's coming, and I'm really curious to see what do we get for that? Are there some kind of rewards or trophies, or what is to be had by that? I know it's even open-ended now, where
right.
I don't think there's even a top to it, although I imagine it gets like geometrically harder at some point to get the next level.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I think they said there's going to be some sort of team rewards, and if that's trophies or maybe some sort of special skins or tints or who knows what they may be thinking or coming up with. I'm sure it'll be worth it, or maybe everyone gets essence or ice depending on your level afterwards. So we'll see.
Yeah.
The last bit of news, I'd like to mention the free hero rotation. It changes every week on Tuesday, and we still don't have Finn yet, only a couple weeks, so it should be probably 2 more rotations. Finn should be in there. But this week is kind of a weird one, especially if you're playing solo queue. You're gonna see some crazy stuff. Because we have Petal, Cruel, Taka, Ringo, Catherine, and Celeste. Been seeing lots of Takas lately, and that doesn't help that all the Android people got Takas for free.
Right.
And now Taka's free in the rotation.
Yeah, a lot of Taka. Cruel is interesting because, especially with with Breaking Point, it seems like Finn's this big tanky hero, and he's just if people play Finn, it seems like Cruel's just gonna sit there and build Breaking Point stacks off of Finn, right, or Arden, who's also really popular for support right now. So you see a lot of tanky teams right now, even maybe Finn and Arden on a team with like a weapon powered Arden and stuff like that. So I don't know. I see a lot of cruel, even potentially, I see all kinds of builds on Taka now. I think people are still trying to figure out what's good after some of the recent changes. But
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of blue takas,
yeah,
and when you go like your CP lane, you're like, what? I thought you were gonna play taka. Like, what? That's not the blue taka. I was not expecting that. So
yeah, and Celeste is so strong right now. I mean, right now, just and from someone who plays support and then primarily melee,
okay,
I just struggle with her range once she gets to level 8. It's
yeah, that range is
being able
nice.
to close the gap to get to her. She's so squishy, and you can take her out, but you just can't get to her before you're half health or a third health left.
Exactly, yeah. So if you don't have any of these characters, pick them up, give them a try. Especially try out the new pedal if you haven't played it yet. It's an interesting new kit that's probably worth giving a try. And if you have any feedback, I'm sure Super Evil will take it, and they like hearing what everyone has to say about the game and the characters and ideas. It all goes through people. So check them out and give them some feedback. That's all the news, but let's jump into some forum static.
Forum static.
So you mentioned about this tanky meta that's happening, and right now people on the forums are talking about how you're seeing Ringos and Voxes and Glaives. All they're building is Sorrowblade and Breaking Point and then defense items. And we're just in this massive, I only need 1-2 items, and we'll just be a tank and then try to kill me. Because I'm building stacks, I'm getting lifesteal.
Yeah.
And I've seen this a couple times, but not enough to kind of just be like, oh my gosh, this is in every game, this sucks. Have you noticed this at all, or have you tried it even?
I've tried similar stuff. I mean, obviously, Cruel, you usually see Breaking Point all the time. And, there's kind of the similar, sustained glaive build that's, Breaking Point and usually, Serpent's Mask. But, I mean, I could see just going that route with Sorrowblade as well.
Yeah, the forum post mentions Ringo doing it. I saw that today.
Did you? I haven't noticed that, but, I usually zero in on... Yeah, I don't think I've seen that on Ringo, but like I said, I haven't probably played enough games to have a really good feel on the meta on that. But I do see Breaking Point a lot. Yeah. I often see double Breaking Point, both carries with
not one person. Okay.
No, two Breaking Point on the enemy team, things like that.
Okay.
And where you think that's probably shouldn't be great, but it'll often be and in worst case, it's when the enemy team is maybe they're ahead and their fortress or whoever their support is just also builds Breaking Point.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, great. Now, not only I can only have one Atlas Pauldron on me as support, right? So yeah. I'm really hoping somebody else on my team does something or we have some kind of plan to deal with this, because it's hard enough to lock down a Cruel with the Breaking Points and hope that you're not getting nuked by the Celeste that's just standing back there while you're yeah. But then their support who's really tanky is sitting there building stacks too.
I know the last time Breaking Point got changed was about the time Petal fell out of the meta. I think it was kind of the same thing. Breaking Point damage was reduced for ranged heroes, and I think increased for melees, or left the same. I forget what it was beforehand. Do you think we need to? Or do you think they need to change it again? Should this only be a melee hero item? Because someone like Ringo poking from distance, just building these stacks is kind of...
Yeah. I know they've changed it a few times, and it seems kind of like Vox, where they can't quite figure out how to change it and not completely destroy, make it useless, right? Because it has a point, it has a place in the game, or at least the idea being that, well, if you're really tanky, if you're if you're the tank or something like that, you could have something like this. I mean, it's kind of like Aftershock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can be really OP and abused, and trying to figure out a way to have it fit where they want it to in the game, but not be something that is used out of place. Obviously, players are going to try to find a way to exploit anything, and that's why we had item stacking and things like that they
Right.
had to
Stuff
get rid of.
becomes the meta because it's the best thing to do. So you have
Yeah.
to play it if you want to win. Otherwise, you're going to lose and you'll get mad.
And they've changed breaking point a couple times.
Yeah.
They changed it from like, damage to crit, and they've changed, tried to change what it even does, but it still seems to always be good.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you change it. I mean, I don't usually mind too much, but and I feel like the times when it gets out of hand, might be those games where that team's already winning anyway.
Uh-huh.
Like, yes, the team beat you that has, breaking point, and it's ridiculous that they're surviving there, but they're doing that because they've, got twice as much gold, and, he's really tanky because he could buy twice as many items as you.
Right. Well, breaking point's a cheap item. I think it's like 1,700 gold.
Yeah.
So it's, it's real easy to get right away or get pretty early.
Yeah. But Sorrow Blade isn't.
No, Sorrow Blade's not. Or this is Sorrow Blade's not, but man. Yeah.
So I guess I don't know. I'm not maybe the best person to ask on that stuff. I feel the pain though, in some of those situations.
Yeah, I think we may see it get changed. I would love to see some more items get added, like when we had Contraption and a couple other things added. Like I think that adds even more to the game that changes, but I'm sure the balancing on all that is a nightmare. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. I almost wonder too if it's possible to either items or maybe even consumables that do some things that already happen in the game. I mean, I'm sure the balance is going to be terrible, but could you imagine like an item that, gives you a stun, like a single stun or something?
Okay.
So like if you had a comp that doesn't have enough stuns and you realize, oh great, our comp is, going to, be beaten by this. If we just had a way, if I could spend like 500 gold to just get a stun, and if I could, use it properly, you could do that math. Is this, is this the way to do it?
Right.
Something like
a
that.
minion's foot, like first hit on a champion stuns them for first time use,
which would add some more strategy that you're like, okay, we're clearly, we're against something we hadn't expected. If we could do this.
Interesting.
So, but obviously that changes everything. But I'd like to see some stuff like that.
Well, if you have any thoughts about this Breaking Point, Sorrow Blade meta, or definitely go to this forum. There's a link in the show notes and give your thoughts. The other bit of forum stack I saw, this was on Reddit, and this was written by a guy he's like, I'm an average player. I think he said he was hotness bronze or hotness silver, and he wrote basically a solo queue help guide. And this is fantastic. Like, go to the show notes now and go read this link. This is just a great post about just tips and things you should think about when solo queuing and what you could do maybe better or to help. It's really to help your team. Like, I think it all comes down to like, just don't be an idiot when you play. That's a lot of the points he was making.
Yeah.
Did you see this, or did you glance over this at all?
I did. I looked over. There's some good stuff in there. I mean, obviously, I key in on the roam
sure.
because of the support. I find, and this is also, like I said, I most of my playtime is actually on stream, so it's a lot of private matches. In the lead up to 1.9, because we were going to get the reset, I actually played some. I had a stream where I played ranked just because it was kind of like the last chance to try to rank up.
Okay.
But otherwise, and even then I was playing with the team. But when I do go solo, it's really hard for me because if I go support, I feel like, I can do a certain amount. I can obviously help my team a lot, but if your carries just don't do what you think they should do, then there's not a lot you can do besides just deciding you're the carry and like buying damage or something. Yeah. But if I go carry, which I'm not as good at, but I do have, I can do all right, just at maybe a little bit lower level than I play support. But if I do that, then I'm always, I have this keen eye to like the support, and I always feel like the support's lacking. And I know like the carries always blame support, but I mean, I'm always like, I really wish I was playing support. And so I always end up doing that. So, things like, your support never buying any vision and, or buying items that don't benefit the team at all and things like that. are really good tips in here.
Yeah, one of the good tips was, everyone can buy defensive items. Everyone can buy vision. Like, don't rely on just the support to do that. Like, I know sometimes when I'm carrying, like, I buy a lot of vision and scout traps as a support. And when I'm a lane and I don't see any on the map, I get kind of frustrated. I'm like, you're not helping us. Now I have to buy them and keep putting them down because we need to know where they are. Like, vision wins games.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think ideally it's everyone's responsibility to do that, but it's the support has more responsibility. Like, I don't know exactly what the ratio is, but it's nice when, if the laner takes responsibility for buying a trap or two during the game to put in his lane bush, because the support might not make it up there every time that thing's popped, right? We're going to try to, and in an ideal case, we'll keep control of that. But if the laner is prepared to throw a trap down, that's going to make everything better. And yeah, it's just, as a support, you often find, depending on the enemy comp, you might have it where there's 3 items that you need ASAP, and you've got to pick one. And it would be a lot nicer if, like, one person on your team is clearly, going for, an Atlas Pauldron, and you could say, okay, good, I don't need to prioritize Atlas Pauldron. I can get that Crucible
first.
Yeah, right. Like, I got a fountain. What do I do next? Well, I should get that. And, if you have a talk on the enemy team, maybe Contraption's a good item, just so we can, just spam vision everywhere instead of me having to, like, keep 2 item slots, full of consumables and just keep buying them every couple of minutes.
But yeah, and so much solo queue is tough, I think, for most people. Like, you're playing by yourself, you have 2 other people that you don't know, and you're always gonna blame them. I think that's just most people's thoughts. It's like, but you got to remember, like, how can you help your team too? If you were buying vision and defensive items and carrying your team, like, that's great. But maybe there's another way you can help them too, like, pings, like, let them know, like, hey, I just saw them in that bush. I know sometimes I'm leaving the jungle shop and I see them come in there, and I'll just ping, like, hey, danger, they're there, just so you know that.
Yeah, that's something that I'm not as good at as I should be, and I think it goes to playing a lot of private matches and sometimes being on Discord or TeamSpeak or something with people that I'm just not as good at, like, hitting that ping all the time and just getting that. I associate pings with a lot with people who abuse them or try to harass you, but good pings, I mean, that's the form of communication you have when you're in solo queue, and good caution ping at the right time, and or just let your team know that you're going to engage before you, like I was saying earlier, like, diving in there as Adagio only to find that your team's not there. Like, maybe if I pinged better or made sure that they were going to do it, then I wouldn't look like such a fool, right?
Sure.
And then I wouldn't get those, like, repeated question mark pings afterwards, right?
But yeah, I know someone puts out a solo queue guide every couple months. I think Shin has a couple of videos on his YouTube page, like, just solo queue practices, and people put out mind guides, like best placements and tips, like, so it's all great advice. And this one's pretty thorough from someone that's not a top tier player, so it's good advice that they're seeing and just helping them win games at these, like, hotness bronze tier. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's all the form static. Like I said, this show, we didn't have a lot of news, so we got a lot of, like, little segments this week. So this is fun. But I wanted to jump into a random item.
Random item.
So every now and then, I like to pick an item and just kind of go over what it does and why I like it. And you even mentioned this a minute ago about vision, but the contraption. This item has become one of my favorite items to get now. It just adds so much, like the vision for your team, and the stats are pretty nice now. So if you're not familiar with Contraption, so the Contraption is the tier 3 item that consists of your Stormguard banner and your chronograph, and you'll get cooldown acceleration, you get energy recharge, you get health, and you get health regain. And then the activatable, you get 3 charges of a scout trap or flare. And just being able to put these mines down, I guess almost all the time, is just very handy. And I know I find myself rushing Stormguard Banner pretty early now because of the health regen, and the jungle clear is just really nice. Like, you can usually get it maybe in like 2 waves if you're not fighting, or 2 rotations if you're not fighting anybody, and then you'll have that health regen and you're already clearing faster, so now you're ahead of the enemy team.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I like a couple of patches ago, I would never get Contraption. I just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Just what it provided. I mean, especially, the activatable was cool, but it was just too slow. You had to wait too long before you could get another charge, and it was just better to just spend your money on buying stacks of flares and scout traps. But recently it's a lot better, and I find myself buying it, especially if like I said, I'll get it early if I'm against Ataka.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, otherwise I know I'm going to be buying all this stuff, and I think it helps that it's I think they reduced the cost in there in one of the patches. I mean, they just keep making it more enticing, and I think now it's past the point where I know some people will say, oh, I hate it, or I hate it when support like gets it as a first item, and we can debate that, but I think it's clearly a good item now, and it's just a matter of like, if I don't get it, it's often because I didn't find the right time to build it.
Okay.
Right? Like, you're in the middle of the game and you're like, do I get that, or do I get that other support item that we need to like survive team fights? Well, all right, I should get that, because in team fights, like you said, if you're not fighting, you can get that, but in team fights, like Banner doesn't help you. I mean, it has regen.
But yeah, it's doing.
But it doesn't help the team.
Yeah, because it's doing 3% damage to non-heroes. So you're getting that, like, if you're taking minion mine or gold mines, you're really doing that damage. So that helps. But yeah, it's not doing that hero damage or helping your team too much.
And I find like more than anything else, support. I don't have set builds usually. I mean, there's certain items that are obviously better for certain heroes, or maybe there's a first item that's kind of your kind of go-to first items.
Yeah.
If you're Arden, I'm more likely to build just like straight up health earlier, just to get, a benefit to his Vanguard and things like that. But usually it's like, well, what is the other team building? What heroes do we have in the other team? And I find like every game's a little different depending on, how much of an advantage we have, how much gold am I getting, what item do I really feel like we need next. So some games, I can get to that. Some games late, I'm like, wow, man, we're really chasing and stuff. I'm going to turn that banner into a Warhorn instead, because I just really need, we're not finishing the kills. We need to do that. But Contraption is good, and it surprised me because I probably was bashing Contraption
a few times. Okay.
Patches ago, like, oh, it's just why would you get Contraption? I can't see it, and now I don't think I could argue that point.
Yeah, and it's so good on Catherine too, because of you have that cooldown acceleration, and more stuns is more kills.
Yeah, on Catherine it's much better. I had one good player that came to the stream, and I was on his team, and he just said he wanted me to just build Contraption and a fountain, and then just like build Clockworks. Okay. And he's like, just do a cooldown, Catherine. Just build this.
All right. Well, what do you think about 2 contraptions? Could you stack those?
I don't think you can.
Probably wouldn't be worth it. You don't get those activatable charges. You do get you'd have 60% cooldown reduction or acceleration. So.
Yeah, but you could probably buy the aftershock instead.
Yeah.
I guess you have the other defensive stats you wouldn't get, but I mean, I've seen people do like Warhorn and Contraption, and that always feels like a waste because you're buying banner twice. But I guess if you're just like swimming in money, I mean, the activatables, but having both of those would be cool. But it'd be something that'd be like the end game closeout thing where you're like, well, I don't need slots for consumables because I have Contraption. Right. Let me just spend this money on a Warhorn.
Yeah, we'll chase him down, or we need to get out of here quickly. I think it's a fun item. It's worth it. I'd love to see. I think if it went up to 5 charges now, that would be pretty amazing,
Oh, yeah.
and it would be an item that you would see everyone just get no matter what. Like,
Oh, all the time.
yeah.
I would buy it all the time. If it was 5 charges, that would be
And I think
pretty.
you would see like other people get it too. So maybe it's at a good spot now.
Yeah.
And
Right now, I find that, especially because I usually have a stack of like flares or something when I do finish Contraption, and then I'm like, okay, well, I have some extra ones. Sometimes, I guess, depending on how overzealous I am, I still find I'm buying a trap or something anyway, even though just because, I'm like, well,
sometimes I forget, like, oh yeah, I had Contraption. Oh, I bought a couple scout traps.
yeah,
I'll use them.
me too. I don't want to admit it, but me too. You're like so automatic that you just hit that consumables tab in the store and like grab a couple of these, a couple of those, and then you're like, why am I buying trap? I could use them, but yeah, you're probably, if you were good at never letting your charges get to 3, just like whenever it gets to 3, just drop one whenever.
Yeah.
Then you're in good shape. But if you do that too much, then you'll be in the state where you're like, I really wish I had a flare, but I just used, I just flared and now I don't have another. So
True.
That's where like 4 or 5 would probably be great, but I'll bet you they've run the numbers and it was just kind of insane when it was like, there was no like management to be done. Like you always had them.
Yeah, I'm sure they tested different ways for this to go, and yeah, we'll see if it changes at all. But I think it's in a good spot. So give Contraption a try if you're listening and haven't, if you're going support and haven't tried it yet, like take a look at it. It helps you practice getting vision down too. It's like, all right, I have this item, just put down the vision. Like, let's do this. Like, get in the habit of it. And then final thing before we get out of here, a little showdown.
Showdown.
So right now in the game, it seems like the 2 lane carries are Celeste and Scarf. And then you got your weapon carry, maybe like a glaive or a jewel or even Ringo in the jungle. But Celeste and Scarf are like go-to laners right now for most people. What are your thoughts on the 2 of them? You said you don't play lane very often, but if you had to pick one, who do you enjoy playing, or who do you even hate playing against? Like,
those are 2 different for me because I know how to play. I don't know how to play Celeste because I haven't put the time in. I actually am planning to have maybe a series of streams now where I have good players teach me how to carry, and I think Celeste is on my short list. I think maybe the first one that I'm going to try to figure out how to play.
okay,
but I do find that Celeste is harder for me to deal with, just from the other side. Like I'd rather face a Scarf than a Celeste.
oh okay,
But I don't feel like Scarf is lacking in that case. I mean, I think a good Scarf is a nightmare to deal with. I just I think I find it's easier for me to get to. I can dodge. For whatever reason, maybe it's just me and my eyesight or whatever, but like I can dodge his skill shots easier and don't get zoned out the same way.
sure.
So as like a melee or a supporter or like Catherine trying to get a stun in there or something like that, I feel like Scarf is maybe easier to deal with. But Scarf, I can play Scarf somewhat.
Okay.
and Celeste I can. So if I had to pick for myself, I'd probably play Scarf just because I'm familiar with his kit and I have some experience landing his Spitfire and that. But I feel like Celeste is stronger, at least against me. Celeste is better. How about you?
Yeah, I like playing Celeste. I played a lot of Celeste before the patches, and then lately I've been playing a lot of Scarf though. If I'm playing lane, it's just I feel like his slow and that goop burn just adds a lot to the team. I know Celeste can like melt Kraken and melt gold miners, and if you get a core collapse on people, like they're probably dead. But they're both such hard characters to play because they're all skills shot characters.
Yeah.
And something about Celeste, like the core collapse takes so long for it to come down. Like I am really bad at timing it. Like so, and with Scarf, that goop goes down like right away. The Spitfire is pretty slow, but the slow is enough on the goop to be like, all right, it did probably what I needed to do. It kept them there, even if they didn't get on fire, and now I can catch them.
Right. Well, Scarf I find is one of the harder, at least for me, one of the harder laners to last hit with.
Yeah.
Like it seems like he takes a lot of skill to be able to farm effectively, and that's just being an inexperienced laner. It's like it's a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know how to do Celeste either, but like playing Scarf, I'll play a game and just be way behind in farm because I haven't mastered those skills yet. I hear you stand back and spit fire from long range to like take out the big minions and things like that. Yeah, but or like you'd like goop and like set them all on fire, and then if there are enemy minions, they're like last hitting. You're doing all the damage, but like you missed the last hits.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. It's like, oh, they're burning. I'm trying to get them. Stupid minion! Like this was mine. Like get out of here.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot more fun, I think, playing Scarf, and I think people underestimate his damage a lot when people are like fighting him and you're burning and you're getting those stacks on the fan of flames, and it's just starting to hurt. Where Celeste, she's constantly poking and, like you said, zoning people out. So either the fight can't start or you're dead before it does start. Or Scarf is like, all right, stand in my fire, let's do this. Like, come at me.
Yeah, I've had many a game where and this is probably something that happens in solo queue where you're not coordinated, but I've had it happen with teams too, where if you're not prepared to just commit to Celeste, if you just let her keep poking you, before you know it, like you can't commit to a fight because you're all at half health. Mm-hmm. And right, like you have to almost when they're there, you have to be prepared with a plan to like engage so that you still have most of your health left and you can go in. But if you're just like sitting in like opposite tri bushes, or you're in lane, kind of dancing, between the two first turrets or something like that, like you're going to come up behind if you just let Celeste like keep just dropping those stars on you.
Yeah.
And Scarf, what do you feel about Scarf's ultimate?
I don't usually max it because I feel like it sets you up just to be killed a lot. So I'm not using it unless we're chasing, which I think
that's what I've been hearing.
Which I think is kind of the point of it. But sometimes, like, out of habit, I think for anybody, it's like the ultimate's going to do all the damage. Like, let's hit it and take care of them. And then you do it and you get knocked back, or they walk out of it. And it's like, oh, well, I should have just got my goop down. This would have worked out better.
Yeah. I've heard people who don't even take it until they've like maxed some other skills on Scarf. Now they're just like, I'm not going to use it. It's like good if multiple people in the enemy team are low and we're just cleaning up, or like you said, if you need to chase or you need to slow them with the inhale or something like that. But
yeah, where Celeste is good like all the time. It's like, if you want to even check to see if they're doing Kraken, or let's see if we can pick someone off, or I died in that fight but I'm back up and they're in lane, like let me shoot it there. It's there before I get there. So that ultimate adds a lot to the team. They're both, I think, great champions that scale into the late game very well. So it's hard to be like, I'll take this one or that one, because they're both the end game with all items. Like, they're going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, you probably just have to try them both and see which one's playstyle fits your personal style more.
Uh-huh. Well, cool. Yeah, so that's a Celeste and Scarf. If you have any thoughts on, if you like one or the other, sort of send me a tweet at Shatter The Vain, and let me hear what you think, or share some screenshots with your builds or your damage or whatever you're doing with them. I did have a game where I went 17-0 with Scarf over the weekend. I felt pretty good about that. So, wow. And that was after playing a Celeste game, and the stream was like, "You're a better Scarf." I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess I'll play Scarf here." Well, awesome. So that's going to do it for episode 54 of Shatter the Vain. ChunkyPretzel, thanks for joining me. Again, where can people follow your stream, follow you, Twitter, all that good stuff?
Well, my stream is at twitch.tv/ChunkyPretzel. And that's where I stream on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights. Cool. And you can also follow me on Twitter at ChunkyPretzel. And, I started that just so that I could let people know, like, when something came up and I can't stream. Okay. But now I'm, I guess, more active than I thought I would be. So.
Cool. And so when you're streaming, are you doing casual games? Or are you just doing your own thing? Or are you playing with people? Like, what's the...
Usually it's private matches. Okay. Usually just viewer matches. I don't spectate a lot. I do occasionally. And that's because it's kind of my primary time to play,
you
so
wanna play.
I want to play. And for some reason, I think since 1.8, and it didn't change in 1.9, I don't know if it's just my device, which is an iPad Air 2, or if it's my particular device or something going on, but it'll, like spectator mode, I get weird spectator leg spikes, usually in team fights.
Okay.
So it's not really that good of a, like, entertaining stream to see everyone freeze at the beginning of a team fight and then fast forward and then a few people are dead and there's really no action to see. So,
Okay.
so I usually play the games, and occasionally we'll do something else. Like I said, I'll do like a casual games and have people try to snipe us and things like that. But I'd say, 5 out of 6 streams are just, raffle for spots in private games all night.
Cool. Okay. Nice. And if you want to follow Shatter the Vain, that's at Shatter the Vain on Twitter. On Facebook, it's /Shatter the Vain. And then the website, shatterthevain.com. All the episodes get posted there. Links to iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, however you want to listen to the podcast, it's all up there for you. And if you're liking the show, leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Like, it helps more people find the show. It gets more people interested in Vainglory and, spreads the word. Podcast gets up there in the rankings and it means more people are listening and playing. So that's always fantastic. That'll do it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. ChunkyPretzel again. Thanks for joining me.
Shatter the Vain.